topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to a icy, frozen southern Florida. I can't believe it. We never get weather like this. But hey, you guys are out there also suffering like we are. We have got the greatest show for you. The day before New Year's Eve. I hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas. They never last long enough. This show that we're going to do this morning for the next 15 minutes, I have all kinds of openings, but this opening out of our 30 shows, this is truly a friend. We met probably about 16 or 17 years ago in Florida. And so I have watched his business for that long, the tax relief business. And I got to tell you, because we usually will average about 3 or 4 complaints a month about different experts. Never, ever, 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 I should knock on wood, have we ever had a complaint about taxation solutions. So not only do I consider him a friend, he is so informative. And I trust him. And I got to tell you, I've learned over the years, especially when it comes to tax relief, you better trust the company that you're with. I love this company. Good morning, Barry Fowler.
Hey, good morning, Steve. Man, always glad to be here. And I didn't realize that you guys actually dropped down to where it's icy and 32 degrees. I thought you were still like at 49. I know that's cold for you.
It is.
Get out that winter parka and enjoy that icy weather you have.
Hey, the problem is finding the parka, because you put it away and you go several years without using it. But it's supposed to be all over with by Thursday. Barry, you know what? I got to tell you, and we want to wish everybody a happy new year. But this show is so important. And I know there's so many people out there who've been procrastinating. And I hope people will make a New Year's resolution to get the IRS off your back. And with Taxation Solutions, Inc., this is the only way. It's not going to go away. So I'm hoping people will actually want to make a New Year's resolution to contact your office and finally get this taken care of.
Hey, the best idea is the pre-New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
Get started here, today. Don't wait till January 1 to procrastinate even more than what you've already done. I mean, you and I have talked about it over the years. People ignore those IRS letters. They throw them away. They think, what's going to happen to me? And until the IRS takes action, which means they've levied their bank account or garnished their wages, it's not painful. But as soon as the IRS does that, because you've ignored them, it becomes really painful. How are you going to make your mortgage payments? How are you going to make your car payments, insurance payments? All the bills that come due, you can't afford to pay. And it's because you procrastinated. And it's really easy to procrastinate. I mean, we all do it. We get deadlines that come up, and hey, we might as well wait till the deadline in the last minute to do something. This isn't one of those things that you should really be doing. Do a pre-resolution, call us right away at 877-996-6477. Let's just talk about it. Let's figure out what we can do, what you can do. And we got plans to help every American that owes the IRS money. We have plans that help them pay the least amount that they can possibly pay and pay it under the best terms that you can possibly do it under. We can discuss all of that with you to determine, hey, what route are we going to go? So why wait till next year? Let's get it started today.
Barry, we just got a text from I guess a longtime listener. He said, I've been watching your shows with Barry for 6 months. I am one of those procrastinators. And I always figured, because there's millions and millions and millions of people who owe the IRS, that basically I'm just a little fly. But I have learned, and I promise solutions, because I've learned they will catch you. That's a good text.
It's a long text too. Yeah. And I mean, the IRS is the largest collection agency in the world. And I mean, we all understand it. Our federal government needs money. We may disagree with how the money is being spent. We may disagree with everything in politics here and there. But regardless, the country needs money to operate. And the only place they get that money is from you and I. Even when they're collecting from a business, guess where that money comes from? You and I. We pay taxes and everything that we buy. It's embedded in there. And so, they're going to get their money one way or the other. And if you owe them, they're coming after collections for you. And then you've got to look at your options. How can you pay this back? Or how can you settle for less than what you owe? How can you maybe put it in non-collectible status? What options do I have? And that's where we come in. We come in to get you those options that you need to get your life back on track, so you can live without looking over your shoulder at what the IRS is or isn't going to do to you.
Barry, we got a letter the other day, and we've actually talked about this before. It was a independent salesperson, and they said they have a lot of write-offs. And he said, if I got he said, I have not filed in 3 years, but he said, how would the IRS know what my write-offs are when they tell me how much is owed? And we've talked about this before.
The IRS doesn't care. Your write-offs are your write-offs. They're not the IRS's write-offs. And when they look at your taxes and they say, hey, you got a 1099, and we'll just say there's $200,000 1099 from your sales activity. They don't care what your mileage was on your car. They don't know. They don't care what your write-offs were to run your business. They don't know. What they do know is you got a 1099 that said your income was $200,000. And that is the income they use on Schedule C because you're self-employed. And then they charge you self-employment taxes on the full amount up to the max for Social Security and max all the way for Medicare. Then they charge you federal income tax. They don't going to give you your kids or your wife or anything else. Now, if you've been filing joint, they'll put her on there and put her W-2s or whatever she's got. And then they calculate the bottom line. They don't do it in your interest. They only do it in their interest and what's the best interest of the federal government. Now, we can go back and file that return and get it corrected and get it to the right amount that's supposed to be there. But the IRS isn't going to do that for you.
Yeah, that's needs to get done. Barry, tell people You started the company over 30 years ago. Is that correct?
I've been in the business of doing this for close to 40 years. We started the company back in 2008 itself, so it's been around a very long time. We're moving into our 18th year of doing this as Taxation Solutions Inc. But I've been representing people even before that, even before it became the thing to be in business for resolution. We were doing resolution for clients, and then it became bigger and bigger with a lot of the trucking industry and owner operators being out there, a lot of self-employed people not understanding the tax ramifications of being in business for themselves as an independent contractor, as a small business person, and needed representation to save them from what the IRS was doing and becoming worse and worse. The independent industry out there, the self-employed industry, has become bigger and bigger over the years. So it's been a huge need for help to solve people's tax problems.
Well, I bring it up, Barry, because every year you see new tax laws go into effect. So we're coming to the end of the year. The big beautiful bill is going to get ready to start. What are some of the new tax laws that really stand out to you for 2026?
Well, the biggest thing was, the increased deductions. So when you're sitting there looking at that one big, beautiful bill that's there, the standard deduction went up. So that helped every American. The no tax on tips has helped anybody that's been in the hospitality industry. Although that's only in play for 2025 through 2028, the no tax on overtime. So if you're a W-2 employee and getting overtime, there's no tax on that up to about $12,500. The new deduction for seniors, they talk about this as being no tax on Social Security. I wish they would have just said Social Security benefits weren't taxable regardless of what you make or anything else, but they put in a $6,000 deduction. I mean, we've already paid tax on Social Security, $6,000 tax deduction for those 65 and older, and that's only effective through 2028. There's certain things I hate about this one big beautiful bill, and that's things being phased out after 2 or 3 years. I mean, if you're going to write a bill, let's put it in and make it permanent. Matter of fact, let's just take every congressman and every senator and every federal employee, and instead of having your own pension system, put them in Social Security and watch Social Security get fixed overnight. But they'll never do it because, hey, their pension's too valuable for them. Some of the other things that are out there is the auto loan interest. If you bought a new vehicle in the last, during the year, you can get a deduction for auto loan interest. So there's a lot of things out there that way, along with the child tax credits increased as well for 2025, and then indexed, for inflation.
Well,
we could go on and on about this one big beautiful bill and how it helps people.
Well, I think the biggest thing is the deductions, because the left keeps saying, oh, it's only going to help the rich, but the deductions is going to help everybody, middle class, whatever, all over.
Well, most of this in this bill, if you look at every single thing that I just talked about, the rich don't get. They're going to get the increased standard deduction, but the rich are actually going to do Schedule A more than anybody else is, because they're going to have more mortgage interest and other things that will get them there. More charitable contributions. But the rich don't get overtime. The seniors, it gets phased out for any individual over 75,000, making over 75,000. So how do the rich benefit from that? Auto loan interest. most of the rich are going to have cars a lot of times through their own company and have company cars and then get taxed for the personal use of it. So they're not taking advantage of that. The child tax credits get phased out. So, everybody may get it, but there's going to be some phases. The state and local tax increase was done because the Democratic states needed more deductions for the people in their state because their taxes are so high. So that helps everybody across the board. But yes, it increased it to 40,000. So that one probably helped the rich more than the poor. But everything else was helping everyday Americans, every taxpayer that's out there.
Barry, I'm going down my list because we got for some reason, in the last 2 weeks, especially in the last 2 days, because we promote your show 2 days out, but I'm trying to go over the questions. One of the concerns of people who work on tips, no tax on tips, they're asking, do you think that the employers are going to lower salaries because of this?
Well, you got to understand, most people in the hospitality industry, if you're a waiter or waitress, you're making very low hourly wage. I mean, they're not going to lower that. They're making pretty much the minimum that they're going to pay because most of their income comes in from tips. Now, maybe some of the other people in the hospitality may get a reasonable pay, and then they get some tips. So maybe the maid service at some of the luxurious hotels, I highly doubt they're going to change their pay structure and just not tip them. You also got to understand there's a lot of people in the hospitality industry who get cash tips that probably never, ever, ever report them. So
that's true.
No tax on tips. If you're not reporting them, it's not really saving you anything, but it's also not benefiting you for Social Security and Medicare either. So, whether or not they're going to reduce that, I don't see most businesses reducing what you're making hourly just because there's no tax on the tips. It also kind of benefits the employer to be able to report that and have less taxes on the tips as well. So, it's kind of one of those things. People worry about what's going to happen, not what truly does happen. So,
True.
If you're fighting against this one big, beautiful bill, you're fighting against it because you think this is going to happen to people. And a lot of times it never does, but they don't ever report on that either.
This is probably the biggest concern, Barry. People, who've never used a service like yours before are scared that if they hire you, that the IRS is going to look negative on them. I know for a fact that's untrue, but that's how people think, though.
Well, Steve, it's kind of funny because if you are a taxpayer and you call the IRS and you say, hey, should I have representation? The IRS is going to say, you don't need representation.
You don't need it.
Don't worry about it. We got you covered. We're going to help. I think Ronald Reagan said it best when he said, you got to run when somebody says, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Go that way, fast as you can. Matter of fact, pick up the phone and call us. Let us help you. Again, our number is 877-996-6477. Again, 877-996-6477. Free call, free consultation. Wherever you are across the country, we're here to help you. So one of the things that you got to understand is the IRS actually has a taxpayer bill of rights. You have 10 fundamental rights that all taxpayers have when dealing with the IRS. And these are all based on provisions within the tax code. So, you have a right to be informed. You have a right to quality service. Kind of funny there because it says, hey, it's supposed to be prompt, courteous, and professional assistance. Okay, I've not seen quality very much from the IRS, but hey, it's there as a bill of right. You have the right to pay more than the correct amount of tax. But who determines that? IRS. Right to challenge IRS positions and be heard. You as a taxpayer probably have no clue how to challenge an IRS position. But people like me that are enrolled agents that have the experience know how to challenge IRS positions so that you are heard. You have a right to appeal any IRS decisions in an independent forum. Most people don't know and won't read the massive amount of literature that the IRS will send out that says, hey, you can appeal. They miss the deadlines, they ignore it, don't realize what they can do. But there are rights to appeal an IRS decision. You also have the right to have finality. So to know that there's limits to challenging the IRS and the IRS to audit or collect. Right to privacy. Expect IRS inquiries to be no more intrusive than necessary. But who determines that? IRS. So if they need to violate what you might think is your right to privacy, they don't necessarily have to do that. Right to confidentiality, expect information not to be disclosed unless authorized by law. Again, IRS is going to determine what parts of the law allows that. You have a right to a fair and just tax system. Nobody thinks our system is fair and just, but it is the system we've got to deal with. And the most important right is the right to retain representation. So it's right there in the Bill of Rights. You have a right to have authorized representation, somebody to step into your shoes to represent you against the IRS so that you know that all the other 9 rights that you have are going to have somebody that's helping you enforce those rights against the IRS and their collection activity. And that's the nice part about it. So if an IRS agent says, hey, you don't need representation, turn around and run, give us a call. You have a right to representation against the IRS and let us step into your shoes. And then you don't ever have to deal with the IRS. We do. And that becomes one of the most beautiful parts about hiring Taxation Solutions. TaxationSolutions.net, Taxation Solutions Tax Relief. Look us up, find us, A+ rating at the BBB. Hey, we're here to help.
Barry, God, there's so many things that go through my mind because we've done so many shows together. But if I look at letters that we get, I think we're like the sounding board because Ask the Experts has been around for so long. But there's one thing that you said that's probably not a big deal to you, but because the letters that we get, it really is a big deal. There's a lot of people that are so embarrassed at the position they're in. And you have said many times on the show, and I love this about you, you're the no judgment zone. And I got to tell you, by letters that we get, that is so important because people really are embarrassed that they're in the situation they're in and they have to open up to a stranger about it.
Yeah. And, most people are kind of afraid to make that phone call and request and ask for help because of the embarrassment, because, hey, how do I really justify and explain that I'm $50,000, $10,000, $100,000, $1 million in debt? Things happen in life. And we've seen it, all along. You start a business and you're out there running a business. All you're concerned with is keeping that business afloat, is to make money for your family. And, things happen. You get to filing taxes and, oh my God, now I owe $10,000 this year. I can't afford to pay it. Well, there's nobody standing over you to say, you've got to pay this right now. And hey, most people, if I don't have $10,000 and I don't want to file these taxes, I don't file them. And that 10,000 becomes 15 or 20,000 with interest and penalties. And now you've got a bigger debt on your hands, and that snowball continues to roll down the hill. IRS didn't come after you because you hadn't filed. They didn't know yet that you owe money. The next year you owe 15 or 20, and you can't ask for help because, oh my God, what have I done? How do I explain this? And sometimes you don't even explain it to your wife or your husband, whoever's
Right.
doing the taxes. And now you're totally in a situation where you have no clue what to do, and you get to your third year, and all of a sudden letters from the IRS come in. And how do you explain this to your wife who opened that letter? So you're embarrassed at home. You're too embarrassed to pick up the phone and call. What we tell you is, don't be embarrassed. Man, this is what we deal with day in and day out. We've heard it. We understand it. We know what's going on. We had a client call us over $1.5 million in debt because he didn't know how to represent himself in an IRS audit. And it was a couple years later. And guess what? His wife just found out. He was hiding IRS letters from her. And he justified it that the IRS wasn't coming knocking or calling so he could hide the letters. And he called us and he was basically in tears and totally embarrassed. And we're like, hey, look, let us look at it. Let us go through and do this analysis and figure something out for you and help you. And his wife got on the phone yelling and shouting and everything. We said, sweetheart, hey, look, we can help. We're not from the IRS. We're Taxation Solutions. We will help you find a solution to this to help your family. We did our audit reconsideration. We got that audit down to less than $250,000.
Wow.
So a little bit more bearable, still expensive. She still wasn't happy, of course. How can anybody be happy owing the IRS $250,000? But we were able to turn it around and be able to show how he can afford with his business to pay this back over the longer period of time that the IRS allows, and the family can still be able to operate their business, be able to afford the things that they could do for their household, as long as the business was continuing to be successful, and set them up for complete success in doing things the right way. So no judgment. We're not here. We're here to help you. We're here to find a way to get that snowball down to something that's either manageable, get rid of it, whatever we've got to do to get it there to help you within the IRS rules, we're here to do and help guide you and get you the best solution that's possible by law.
Barry, we always wonder who's out there listening or who's out there watching. We just got a text from a gentleman in Wichita Falls, Texas. He said, this is really a spiritual happening right now. I have been so worried because I haven't filed in the last 2 years that they will come after my wife. I just found your show, and here you are basically talking about it. How can I protect her until I get this resolved by calling you?
Well, right now, just pick up the phone and call us. We are going to take care of it from there. So pick up that phone, call us at 877-996-6477. Do it right now. I know I'm on the show. I know we're live and doing this, but if you call us right now, I've got somebody that's going to answer the phone. We will get a time today to talk and to start getting the solution going so your wife can rest easy moving into the next year. We know what we're doing. We know how to do it. We can take care of this and help you. Hey, by the way, just a few weeks ago, I just drove through Wichita Falls, Texas. So nice little city out there and everything. And people laugh, but I do get around here in the state and get out different places. I think it was the first time I've actually driven through the city. So what a coincidence that you'd be calling. So it seems to work that
That's
way. I was
wild.
out in Hawaii and I got clients in Hawaii.
Yes,
We've
I
been in
remember that.
Florida, and we got a whole bunch of clients while I was in Florida. So I think it's wherever I drive, we get clients. So, hey, give us a call. I could name probably 100 different cities I've been in over this during this month. So everybody called me from those cities. Man, we'd love to help y'all.
Hey, Barry, it's amazing. It's, it's not just people who live in major cities who have IRS problems. Here's a small town like Wichita Falls. Who would think someone in Wichita Falls has got a problem? And it happens.
Yeah, it does. It does. We've helped a lot of ranchers with some tax problems as well. So doesn't matter where you are in the country, big cities, small cities, mid-sized cities, everybody gets into a tax problem at some point in time. Hopefully you haven't, but something, maybe you're going through an audit, maybe you had, a small tax problem or some small debt. Hey, we'll guide you and tell you, hey, this is what you need to do. Maybe you just need a short-term payment plan. Maybe you need a longer-term payment plan. Maybe you don't need our service, but we can tell you, hey, Joe, based on this and what you're telling us, you owe $5,000. Hey, go to the IRS website, do this, and you can get yourself set up on a payment plan. And, you can get these kind of terms. So if we can help you make your life a little bit easier, that's what we're here to do. Maybe you owe 10, 20, 50, 100,000. Well, now you need somebody that's going to actually step in and represent you and keep that IRS off your back so that we can get you to the right, plan. And, everybody asks, what's the right plan? Well, let's talk about it. Let's look at your situation. Let's develop a plan together. And we may come up with one plan today, but get you to modify a couple things in your life or do a few different things in your life to change your financial situation. And we go to a whole different plan over here because we made it to where you could pay less to the IRS because we changed other things in your life that make it better to put the better plan in place, whether it's an offering compromise, partial pay installment agreement, long-term payment plan, whatever it is, we can go through and do.
Bringing that up, you do what's called your IRS playbook, and they can go to www.irsplaybook.info. Tell them about the playbook you developed.
No, we don't want to give out that information.
Oh,
it's our 3 simple steps that we use to fight the IRS. And why would we want to broadcast that we have this playbook that's out there for free, no cost, that's a do-it-yourselfer, that gives them the insight to putting a solution in place to their tax problem? Yes, it's at www.irsplaybook.info. You can get out there and see the 3 simple steps that we use. But no, we don't want that information out there. My wife made me do it. And, it was probably one of the nicest things that I've done to help people. And she said, hey, we need to share information and help as many people out there as possible. And so, we know there's a lot of do-it-yourselfers. It's no cost to you. You have to put a little bit of information in, but you can get in there and see the steps that we're using, and I've been using for 30 plus years to start putting a solution in place for IRS debt. And it's all about helping people, and I know there's a lot of do-it-yourselfers out there. Do I recommend do-it-yourself? No. There are times that we will tell you, hey, it's not worth hiring us. It's not worth hiring anybody to do this. You can go and do it this way and get just as good a solution as we would. And this would be better for you to go through and do. But, again, we know there's a lot of do-it-yourselfers out there. So if you do want to look at doing it yourself or want to have an idea, should I do this myself or not? You can go to www.irsplaybook.info playbook.info and see the 3 simple steps that we use to keep the IRS off your back and put a solution in place. And it's the steps I've been using for 30 plus years.
Well, speaking of nice things to do, you have a show on Mondays. I think it's 10 o'clock Eastern. Is that right?
10 o'clock Eastern. We're right after Ask the Experts. Imagine how that happened, right?
Yeah.
And you got me into radio. So taxtalkforyou.com is our website where you can go over and follow us. We've got Facebook, Instagram, and all the other stuff. And then, of course, all of our podcasts, just like Ask the Experts, are on all the national podcast sites and even the other smaller podcast sites. I think we're over 30 or so different podcast sites out there. I don't know how many there are. They don't tell me that anymore.
70, Barry. 70.
Okay. So we're on 70 different podcast sites, including iHeart,
Yes.
Spotify, Speaker. What are some of the other ones that are out there? I don't know.
YouTube, Facebook, iHeart's huge. We get a lot from iHeart. So I know we have a lot of people who listen on iHeart, but YouTube, I mean, we're on all the majors, every one of them.
Hey, speaking of YouTube, it was really nice because I didn't realize at one point that we were on YouTube when we were getting started, and I was flipping through YouTube on my TV, and all of a sudden, our Ask the Expert show came up.
Yeah.
You know, one of my kids was sitting there, and you know, he was home from college, and he goes, "Dad, is that you on TV?" I went, "Yeah, I don't know how I got there, but yeah, how did I get into that box?" So yeah, you can replay these shows on YouTube. I mean, it's really nice, the technology that's out there and the information that is available to people, especially with shows like Ask the Experts or even our show, Tax Talk for You, is out there, and getting the information out to people to help you realize that the IRS is going to come after you at some point, that there is somebody that actually cares more about you than possibly you do with your tax situation. Somebody that's actually going to keep you informed, somebody that's knowledgeable about all the rules and regulations of the IRS and every single possible way that we can put a solution in place and even modify things in your financial situation that help you get a better solution against the IRS as well.
Honey in Albuquerque wants to know, can I stop the IRS collections or garnishments while I explore my options through you?
You can't, but I can. Because once you hire me, that's my job. You know,
Right.
what we actually tell people is that once you hire us, you don't talk to the IRS ever again. We don't want you in the middle between what we're doing with the IRS. As a matter of fact, we will stop our casework with you if you interrupt what we're dealing with the IRS, because you can make things more confusing. You can cause a lot of problems for us in developing the solution that's right for you. So we will go in and we'll put a hold in place. We will go in and determine, hey, what do we need to do? We will work with the IRS for you and with you, because we're going to need to get information from you. And then while we're doing that, we'll be evaluating, hey, what is your best solution? You know, there's sometimes we come in and we do a short-term payment plan. We do 180-day full pay and be done, because the client has that kind of money, or they need that kind of time to put together, you know, the money for, you know, personal loan or HELOC, or maybe they're getting ready to go through bankruptcy and they need the time to be able to go through and do it. And we can even gather them that time so that their attorney can take them into bankruptcy and get certain older debts discharged, you know, through bankruptcy. Those debts have got to be at least 3 years old. And then it could be dischargeable in Chapter 7 bankruptcy under a lot of strict conditions. but your attorney's going to go through that. Maybe we just need that time to really modify your whole life situation so that you can qualify for, that offer and compromise, or maybe, you're sitting there looking at what your husband or your wife did to you when they filed taxes. You never signed it, weren't aware of it. And maybe you qualify for innocent spouse relief. Hey, if we can get that, we can get you out from underneath that debt as well, especially if you're, divorced. If you're a family still, it doesn't matter whether you're considered guilty with it or not, whether you owe the debt and he owes the debt or vice versa. At the end of the day, it still comes out of the family budget. So, you're both going to be paying the debt back. But if there's need for innocent spouse relief, we can get innocent spouse relief if you qualify as well.
Barry, this might be the most important question I ask you today, is for those who are sitting on the couch now, who are letting those letters pile up, what can happen to these people who just bury their head in the sand and think this is going to go away? What happens to those people?
Well, first thing is I didn't realize anybody could breathe in the sand and you'd be dead. It's kind of like being buried under those letters. It could start a fire and you're not going to have a tax problem anymore. You're going to have a life problem. Realistically, all jokes aside, ignoring the IRS, putting your head in the sand is basically going to get you in the biggest trouble you've ever seen in your life, because you're dealing with the largest collection agency, and they do things, one, to get your attention. And I've talked to many revenue officers, I've talked to many IRS agents, and what they all say is they use a levy against your bank account to do two things. Get money, of course, is one. The second one is to get your attention. And trust me, when they take every single dime out of your bank account at the most inopportune time, and when's that? Right after your paycheck gets there and your mortgage is due, or your car payments are due, and your bills are due, and you can't afford to pay it. Do you think they have your attention? They absolutely do have your attention. Now, you could have prevented this. You could have started dealing with this problem the first letter that came in. You could have started dealing with the problem when the second or the third or the fourth letter came in. You could have dealt with this problem when the 7th, 8th, 9th, or 10th letter came in. But you've ignored it, so they got to get your attention. And it's time to, while you're sitting on the couch, everybody's got this. I mean, I've seen my family sit around doing things when we got together with everybody over Christmas. I could tell you almost every single niece, nephew, grandchild out there probably had a phone somewhere near them, if they were old enough to have a phone, and they were either playing games or doing whatever. But you could just sit there and dial this phone number, 877-996-6477. You don't have to get up off the couch. You don't have to go anywhere to have the conversation, unless you're sitting with family and you don't want them to hear, of course. But if you're just sitting there, pick up that phone. It's a free consultation. It's a free call, not costing you anything, just to find out, what can we do? What can Taxation Solutions, Tax Relief, taxationsolutions.net do for you to get the IRS off your back and to stop them before the IRS levies your bank account? Now, maybe the IRS levied your bank account, they didn't get enough money, and you continue to ignore them. Sometime in the next 6 months or 3 months or a year, the IRS is going to levy your wages. Now, how embarrassing is that? Now, your employer has a judgment zone. They're going to judge you. I guarantee you. Because human resources is going to get the notice from the IRS, and they're going to have to levy your wages and leave you with barely any money to live on. And I almost guarantee somewhere in that office, it's going to leak out to everybody else that you have an IRS wage levy. I don't care how private things are supposed to be in a business. People talk around the water cooler. People talk. People communicate. They may have talked to your boss so that your boss could come and talk to you. Well, now, not only did human resources know, your boss knows, and then they called you into the office. Now, other people know you got some kind of problem or some kind of issue. So don't let it get to that. I mean, realistically, dealing with us and letting us put a solution in place and help you is what is going to save you from those kind of problems in your life, so that you realize that, hey, we have a no judgment zone, but other people still judge. And we're not communicating with your employer. We're not communicating with your family. We're not communicating with your neighbors. We're communicating with you and with the IRS. And that's it. It's completely private. It's between you and I, maybe your spouse. If your spouse is in on the debt as well, then we'll communicate with both of you to get the information we need to help put the solution that you deserve to put your life back to the way it should be, to be able to sleep at night and relax, at least a little bit.
No, we've got about 4 minutes left. I'm going to try to get some of these other questions in. This is from Kurt in Sioux Falls, Iowa. He wants to know, if you have an IRS lien, how does that show up on your credit report?
It's going to show up that you owe the IRS money and you have a lien on your property. And if you go to sell any assets that you have, the IRS will take their share of the money until your debt is paid. So yes, it's going to show up and it's going to affect your credit.
This is Martin in Lexington, Kentucky. He wants to know, what if I don't have the money to pay the IRS? How do I make a deal with them?
You call us at Taxation Solutions, 877-996-6477, and let us find a way to make this work, whether it's an offer in compromise, partial pay installment agreement, maybe a non-collectible status. Let us sit there and evaluate this with you so that you can get the best solution that you can have to solve your tax problem and keep the IRS off your back.
Here's another one from Myra. This is in Durham, North Carolina. I'm really enjoying your show. What happens if you owe the IRS and you have different options to pay them back? Is that correct?
Yes, you have different options that are available to you: short-term installment agreement, long-term installment agreement, partial pay installment agreement. You might qualify for an offer of compromise or non-collectible status. We use all these tools on our side to help you. The first thing you want to do, just like everybody else, is let's get you in for a free consultation at 877-996-6477. Once we can discuss everything going on in your life and your financial situation, we can kind of give you an idea of what we're going to be able to do for you, how we're going to be able to solve it. And maybe the IRS is completely wrong and you don't owe that much, and we can get penalty abatements, or we can get the tax completely reduced and get it corrected. So there's a lot of different options available to you. It takes that phone call to get started to figure out what's the best avenue for you. Again, that's 877-996-6477, or you can just go right on to taxationsolutions.net.
Barry, you'll have a show this Monday, right?
Absolutely. We get to start off the new year really good on Monday, taxtalk4u.com. Again, we'll be talking about IRS solutions and resolutions to solving your tax debt, and probably talking a little bit more about the one big beautiful bill and the things that'll be coming up in 2026 as well. So tune in Monday, 10 a.m. Eastern time at taxtalk4u.com.
I got to tell you, you always have the greatest topics for your shows. You have done such a great job with your show. And I think about the days that we did radio together. Gosh, this is so much further. I mean, the reach is just amazing. But the great part about it is you can go back to like iHeart or YouTube and listen to past shows. Barry, all I can say is Happy New Year to you and your family. I love you, bro. I know we've been doing this for a long time together, and I hope 2026 is incredible for you.
Man, I hope you have a blessed new year. It's been fantastic. Looking forward to being on with you next year. And we're going to have a great 2026 together, and we're going to have a great 2026 helping taxpayers all across the country solve their tax problems. Again, go to taxationsolutions.net or call us at 877-996-6477. Again, everybody have a God-blessed and glorious 2026 and a wonderful and safe New Year's. Thank you, Steve.
Hey, God blessed us. God blessed us with your show, bro. You're an incredible person, and we'll see you next year. That's weird, but we're going to see you next year. Okay, bud. Hey, have a good one. That's Barry Fowler with Taxation Solutions. Hey, that's going to do it for us today. Hey, everybody have a happy and blessed New Year. Trust me, 2026 is going to be amazing. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.